Okay. All right. Hi. So my name is Paulina, and this is kind of my first milestone project video. Just talking about things that I've completed so far, for my research project. So what I am researching is, as you can see by the title, it's understanding the socioeconomic and gender-based disparities when it comes to online learning. So the way that I've been going about it so far is, well, first off, this is a research project, so I'm on the research track, and the way that I've been going about it so far is I've had to use data from Kaggle or Kaggle, um, and I pull this data to basically kind of answer a couple of things. So there's two parts to my research. And the first part is really understanding factors how socioeconomic status affects the student's ability to be able to perform successfully in an online environment, but as well as the gender differences there as well, how potentially one group versus the other, how that also takes into effect, how that also affects the educational success when it comes to students and online learning. So to start, we're gonna go a little bit backwards here, but this is my Jupyter notebook for just the data analysis I've been doing so far and pulling that data. To kind of start off, let me kind of go down here. So this is data. It's called by the title, it's like this X API education data set. Um, this data set, what's really good about it is that this data sets, it is coming from a study where they analyzed or researched student engagement from an online learning platform known as Calboard 360. It's like this cloud-based learning management system that some schools have incorporated within the US. So that's been really helpful because within that research, they've surveyed very similar things to as to what I'm looking for. So they've researched, they took factors into account such as the gender, they took factors in such as parental involvement, as well as a couple of surveys when it comes to just parent satisfaction when it comes to the school. Um, Along with students' absences and like the participation aspect of how often they participated and interacted with the online platform, and then as well as the gender breakdown. So I guess to kind of give you a bit of a better understanding. So at the very top, when you pull the data, it just puts it up into the amount of male versus female within that study. Again, that study that I'm referring to with the cowboard, right? This one. So I went and pulled it in and just gave me a plot down of the male and female um, quantity within that study. From there, it then ranked it from medium to low to high performance by the gender. Um, I don't particularly like the medium aspect of it. I would have just broken down into like, either passing or failing. But it gave me this, or not it gave me, but the research itself wanted to include that as an extra distribution. So then in the next cell, it's just a breakdown of the performances by the gender, if they're scoring kind of, medium, low, and then high. And even in this trend, what's interesting is that when it comes to performing well, female students still outperform the male group slightly, but then when it comes to these two categories, it's a fairly big difference. So that was interesting because in the article research that I've done so far, it was kind of leaning towards the opposite, where there were extremes when it came to men's performance levels, or the male population performance level within that study. But in this case, the men are doing the males are doing better. And then one of the reasons that I like this data is that, like I mentioned, it takes into account all these other factors, and mainly what I like is that its data is being pulled from students' use of learning from an online platform. And I think like that was my main goal, was to understand exactly how certain factors contribute to the success of being able to learn through an online platform. Um, so this data answers it, not answers it, but it provides me the information that I need and looks into the factors that I need. However, the one thing that I don't like is that it doesn't directly show me what the socioeconomic factors are. So there's no, like the data itself doesn't say, here are the students that come from this socioeconomic background, here's their gender breakdown, and these are their scores, right? It purely just breaks down the gender, and then the success rate, the success scores of each of those genders within that study. But then it does provide other factors like here, parental engagement. So what does that mean? It's if you think about elementary school to middle school, even high school, the level of engagement that you may receive from parents. And so there tends to be a trend where there's high parental involvement, usually means that there's a higher, like a correlation to a higher success um, rate for students, given that their parents are more involved with their education. So there could be inferences made from that, um, also given like outside data or outside research as well, where lower parental correlations sometimes may result in a lower socioeconomic status, mainly because those parents are busy working, and so they may not have enough time to provide or to give up when it comes to directly engaging more with their child's education. So what I mean by that is, let's say if a child has or a student has a problem at home with like the online system is confused by something like the setup of it, some online learning platform, and there's no one at home to kind of help them figure that out. That becomes an issue, right? Because then that basically stalls the student from being able to successfully perform within that day if they are, if they run into a blocker versus in a household where maybe both parents don't need to work, maybe it's just one provider and the other one stays home, then that stay-at-home parent would be more able to provide help for the student that's stuck at that blocker. So it's inferences like that that would have to be made. And even those inferences that I made, the majority of them came from also kind of also researching outside of just the scope, asking that question um, towards, towards online research and certain articles that do support that. But like I said, a lot of that is coming from, or I guess educational inferences, if anything. But it would be nice to potentially find data that is more, I'd say, has more of that distribution of this is the socioeconomic status and this is the success rate, right? The only issue with that is that I haven't found it so far for online learning. I've found it for just, your classic, physical, like not physical, but attending, you know, physically to school. So I found information on that, but I haven't found the same when it applies to education through online platforms. So these are just some of the other things that I was talking about in the original data set and like other factors. So it does give you a breakdown as to like the study amount that each gender um, is able to give towards the topic that they are studying, and the score associated with it, or their grade rather. Um, And then other factors which I liked also when it came to it's not directly related to, my proposal, but I do like the fact that it has these other factors that accounts for it. So like the sleep factor, social media, stress levels. Stress levels is actually one thing that is, I would say, more could also be used within my research as like again like another inference being made. So you can say that stress factors such as if it's high stress and they may live in a socioeconomic status income or family income where maybe there isn't enough space. So like the student has to share a desk and maybe that causes high stress, or maybe there isn't enough the tools that they're using, such as the computer, or let's say the mobile device, the mobile tool that they're using when it comes to their education isn't necessarily of like a high quality. And that could also maybe cause the stress because the instructions that the instructor is giving when it comes to setting up things on your computer maybe let's say for Mac users, and that's great, and may not be directly applicable towards like Windows. So that could be also like an inference you can make from, what does it mean by like stress levels? Stress levels meaning like it's just, not the right tools, so you don't have the right computer that you're using. Um, or is it, from like the actual environment that you're in, that you don't have, the physical space to actually, put your laptop on and get out, notebooks, etc., to actually have space to study in. So inferences like that, which I don't necessarily want to be making, I want to be able to find data that potentially external data that would be in addition to this research, right? Because so far, like I mentioned, I think this is a good data source, but it's just missing that direct involvement of, okay, how is SES um, directly involved with student performance in this case? And then this is also just another breakdown of the assignment completion rate by the gender, and then the final distribution of grades by each gender as well. This is the one thing that I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what other is. I'm assuming that's potentially in that study, they had like a third category when it came to like gender identification. So maybe that's where the other is coming from. I just wish it was labeled differently. But I'll take another look at it. And then this is just like a scatter plot. Not a scatter plot, but like a density, if you will, of the study hours breakdown between the genders. And then this goes into a relation between stress levels and exam scores. So, potentially if you have higher stress, you tend to either score high or low. For me, I'm also not too fond of this because I think it varies. I think you can have high stress level and score well versus, for some stress is like a detrimental factor when it comes to exam performance. So this I may also not potentially include. The biggest thing for me at the moment is just finding more of SES related, directly displayed content within data that I could then directly say, okay, this is how it's directly showing that low or high SES and the academic performance of students based on, whether they come from a low or high SES household. For now, some of the factors that are on here, I have to make refer or yeah, I had to have to make inferences on, and that's not something that I particularly want to be making. But this is where I'm at the moment. So these are just summaries that I made for myself to kind of keeping track of exactly what's happening, what each of these graphs is displaying and showing. Let me see. This is where I pulled the data from Kaggle, and then I uploaded it into Jupyter Notebook, so it's up here, running in the kernel. And then one of the things that I did want to look into is displaying a survey. So let's see, it's here. So this is one of the things that I was debating about is, well, this is one of the things that I want to include. Um, and that's the thing about this is that it's more or less like a, voluntary survey. So there are some questions on here that, like this one, for example, that I may have to pose it as a required question, or like, you have to mark some answer prior to being able to submit the survey, because this again is what I'm trying to kind of bring out more in my research is that direct or, pulling information that can directly correlate with SES and academic performance. So this is kind of the only question that in my survey that I'm kind of, struggling with if that's something that folks would be comfortable answering. Again, I would assume this would all be, like an anonymous survey. Unless they want, participation credit, then there'd have to be like an email inclusive of this. But this is kind of what I'm worried about if folks not wanting to answer, but then I'm not sure as to how else to phrase it or what other answers I could provide that um, could give me the direct answer, could directly answer my SES question. Then this is just kind of the educational background. Um, I think I repeated this question and I'll have to remove it. Um, the type of devices they use for online learning, stability of their internet connection. So I think the rest of these questions are fine. Um, it's just, again, that question when it comes to income that I'm afraid folks may not be super comfortable answering in. But the thing is that I do need that, or I need some questions related to economic background to be answered. So if there's any advice that I could get on that, or maybe if you think it's fine, then I'll just keep it. And then I'll just submit it when I send out the survey. But if there's like a different way of going about it, that would be great. Any feedback would be great on that. Uh, Otherwise, that's kind of it in terms of just where I'm at. So, um, I know I've been just going off, but really, I think I have a good data set so far. I would like to have another data set that is directly showing me that, relationship with SES and academic performance. But then I also would like to send out a survey to us, to students, because I think this is also kind of um, a great opportunity because, in our case, this is, anyone who's doing the online masters in CS, it's all through online education, right? So this is all remote learning, and it would be interesting. And this would be kind of like it would be interesting to be able to get folks participating and answering my survey because we're all literally students within an online learning platform, and we all come from different factors, like I said, income level, age, stress levels, education levels. So this, if anything, this would also almost be like, my own, I mean, hence, my own research, my own data research that I would be collecting. Similarly to how the data got pulled to Kaggle, except in my factor, I do want to be inclusive of the SES factors. So that's kind of it. Like I mentioned, I'll include these two links. I'll include my Jupyter notebook if it's possible. I'm not sure how to do that because I haven't done that before, but I'll include my Jupyter notebook as part of the submission. I'll include this survey as well, so that folks, when they're reviewing it, they can take a look at it. Um, but otherwise, that's kind of it. I hope that was helpful and insightful, and I hope that I wasn't rambling too much on and on about this. But yeah, this is my so far this is what I have for my proposal. So thank you so much.